Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are listening to this. Daniel Childs here. Let's talk Chelsea for the 8th of October 2024. Hope you're having a great start to your week, wherever you are watching or listening to this. So we're into the international break now, the October international break. Have to say, it comes at a more frustrating time than the September international break, because that one came after kind of a mixed bag of opening results and performances for Chelsea. This one is obviously after a much more positive run of games for Enzo Maresca. And although Sunday's result was not what we wanted, I still think the positive vibe around Chelsea means that you kind of want it to continue. And because what we're going to see after the international break is going to be a run of some very big games, obviously there's a lot of intrigue and kind of insight we're going to get from those games, absolutely, especially away at Anfield, facing Newcastle twice in the League and Cup, Man United away from home, and then Arsenal at home in the Premier League. But we have got some news to get through today. Injury updates for Noni, Madueke and also Wesley Fofana. And then we're going to go into the main bulk of the show, which is about, do Chelsea have a yellow card problem? This was something that was dissected and kind of brought to Enzo Maresca following the Nottingham Forest game. Do Chelsea have a disciplinary problem? They've been fined by the FA after another spat of yellow cards on Sunday's game. But we've got some numbers around that, but then also the main culprit. We'll go into that. If you are new around here, please like the show, really helps out. Subscribe if you're enjoying the content so you don't miss any of the shows coming on the channel, whether that's wanting to watch on YouTube, but also via the podcast stream as well. Also want to say a massive thank you to the guys at Alloy Collectors, as I have been doing in recent weeks. You can use my special discount code SonOfChelsea at checkout to get 15% off your order for a metal Chelsea home shirt, whether you want to get the retro version, the new version, and I'm sure upcoming versions as well. Get down there, link in the description box below. Great guys at Alloy Collectors, creating a great collectible for Chelsea fans and general football fans, but we care about Chelsea fans here, obviously, and I think it is a good collectible to get if you are a lover of Chelsea Football Club, which we all are. Let's jump into some quick injury stuff. So, Noni Madueke, of course, limped off Sunday's game, of course, scored, had a really positive performance, quite an important player, especially in the Premier League for Enzo Maresca. From what we understand, because, of course, he was selected for England international duty, is that he has been passed fit, which is great news. He was checked over after he had to be carried off by two members of Chelsea staff, having picked up a foot problem against Nottingham Forest. So it seems like everything's okay. Hopefully that's the way it is. I mean, I prefer kind of all Chelsea players after Sunday's game to not have to go on international duty, but that is the way things are. And hopefully Noni get some football. It's good to see Noni and Levi. Levi's another one we're going to have to check on. I haven't read anything today about his injury because he had to limp off against Forest very late on as well. But Noni, Levi, and of course Cole Palmer all playing for the England international team. Of course, that's brilliant. But I just hope that for their fitness, they're protected and they do come back to Chelsea fully ready for that Liverpool game. The other one was regarding Wesley Fofana, and apparently this came from Chelsea's request. He will undergo tests in France at their training ground, I think it is, after a blow received to the right shin 3 weeks ago now. Barring any unpleasant surprises, though, Fofana should be able to stay with the French squad. So, someone who returned from a long-standing injury. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully, like with Madueke, he's past fit and everything's okay. But let's jump into the main bulk, which is, of course, do Chelsea have a yellow card problem? That was a piece by the BBC that goes into the fact that Chelsea are top of the yellow card table after 7 Premier League matches, and Sunday's fractious game with Forest has raised the question, do they have an issue with discipline? Manager Enzo Maresca played down concerns when asked, but the Blues face an automatic 50 grand fine after referee Chris Kavanagh brandished them 6 yellow cards during the 1-1 draw at Stamford Bridge. Now, we do have confirmation as well that the FA was going to look at the massive scuffle between the Chelsea players and the footage that was there, that Jackson was basically slapping Forest defender Morato, but apparently he's got away with it. That was what Nazar Kinsella reported this afternoon before recording this show. So that's good, he's got away with it, but I'm quite stunned by that, given seeing the footage back. But VAR didn't take action. The FA haven't either, with both clubs also likely to face a charge of failing to control their players following an on-pitch melee. And they break it down with a specific number. So Chelsea have 27 bookings this season, which is more than any other in the Premier League. Defenders Fofana and Cucurella have become the first two players to pick up 5 yellow cards in the league this season and will miss the upcoming match at Liverpool. The Blues also picked up the most yellow cards last season with 105. Wolves were second with 100. And 105 yellows is a Premier League record for a season, surpassing the 101 by Leeds in the 21-22 campaign. So we clearly had a discipline problem at times last season. That was especially evident in the first few weeks, kind of this time last year. Jackson got suspended, other players got suspended. Really stupid, self-inflicted wounds where, sorry to harp on about Jackson, but Jackson, I remember specifically kicking the ball away a few times and other players doing it as well, showing dissent, which clearly has been something, especially this season, the refs are trying to crack down on a lot more. And we had some of that on Sunday. I think Cole Palmer got a yellow for Kavanagh for kind of over arguing after a free kick for Nottingham Forest. But and then you can kind of look at the age of the squad. That was talked about a lot last season, the inexperience. I think the discipline actually got better as the season went on and Chelsea actually restrained themselves, and there was a run of games where players who were close to getting a suspension luckily avoided it, which was a sign that kind of the petulance was being ebbed away under Pochettino, which was a really good sign as we ended last season strongly, and that was important. So have Chelsea just reverted back to a problem of last season? Have they, forgotten everything they learnt last year? And that was my instinct. That was my initial instinct. I was initially going to come onto this show and talk about it is a problem, because if we keep on having players suspended, obviously that's going to disrupt our plans. It's going to disrupt the rhythm of the season, potentially get some players banned for a longer period of time if they accumulate more than just 5 yellow cards over the season. And that's a real problem because, this team is energetic. It wants to be moving in the right direction. It's playing with intensity, which is something that I and others have praised. Absolutely. I like to see that from my Chelsea team, but you don't want it going overboard and the team losing their heads. Controlled chaos is, I think, the way I'd want Chelsea to always operate. You want to add a sense of chaos into the game, especially when you're attacking the opponent. You want their defensive line to be chaotic and unstructured, and that's where you can very much isolate them and overwhelm them. We've seen that a few times this season, but obviously if you're out of control yourself, you not only can be, in terms of defensive structure, all over the place, game plan all over the place, but also in terms of your discipline going out the window, which is what we don't want to see. But then the brilliant Ollie Glanville, sent me one of his posts on X, and it kind of summed up who kind of the main culprit is for really skewing the numbers so far this season. And it's quite ironic, really, because I think for Chelsea fans, if there's one thing that I can absolutely say that a majority of Chelsea fans agree on, is a shared dislike, a shared opposition to one Anthony Taylor. And as Ollie Glanville points out here, in our league matches this season, Chelsea have picked up 1, 3, 2, 8, 2, 2, 4. That's the sequence of games. Each one of those numbers is for a specific game in the Premier League, and that's yellow cards. And it's very clear, obviously, to see where the outlier is in that series. Without Bournemouth, which is where we received 8 yellow cards, we would sit at 2.33 cards a game, which sits on par with the likes of Arsenal, City, and Bournemouth. And this obviously very much relates to that game. Anthony Taylor, it was a mad game. It was a historic game because he broke the records for yellow cards. So at least Taylor has achieved something this season. I don't know what else he's going to achieve, but in terms of great officiating, probably not, but at least he's got himself a nice record. But he also goes on, Ollie, here to explain that inclusive of Taylor's complete failure of control in which he broke the Premier League yellow card record, we land at over 3 and only 3 clear of Man United overall despite the outlier. The yellow card issue is nothing of the sort outside of Bournemouth. We rank essentially mid-table. Bournemouth received 6 of 19 yellows that day. We received 8 of 27. There is room for discussion around yellows for dissent, time wasting, but that's an incredibly subjective call as we've seen all season. Context is key. And that is the thing, right? Because even within different Premier League games, there have been a lot of discussion and anger from some fans over an inconsistency, right? That was specific. The one that comes to mind instantly actually relates to Arsenal, and very rarely on this show you're going to see me defend Arsenal Football Club, but in this specific case against Man City, I think it was the Trossard second yellow. At the time, I thought, Trossard was letting his team down. He's being stupid. You're 2-1 up. Why are you giving your team more difficulty at one of the most difficult rounds in world football? But actually, earlier in that same half, I think it was either Carl Walker, Savino, I think it might have been, kicked the ball away, or a Man City player definitely kicked the ball away in a similar fashion, and Michael Oliver, the official that day, did nothing about it. So there is an inconsistency, and another example of time wasting, of maybe ruining the game, of doing something that the referee should be picking up more. It's always been the case for all of my life, and I don't think it will ever be solved, is goalkeeper time wasting. Seltz was doing this on Sunday afternoon at the Bridge, and of course the classic referee thing where they wait until like the 95th minute to brandish a first yellow when they've been doing it all day, full well knowing that unless that keeper fouls someone or does something really egregious, he ain't getting a second yellow for the same foul, basically, for the same thing, which is time wasting. So there is inconsistency. And in the case of Anthony Taylor losing complete control of the game, which I'd argue kind of Kavanagh did as well, it gets back to a fundamental issue in the Premier League, which is poor officiating. I think in this specific case, it's a fundamental issue of Anthony Taylor, who hopefully we will not have as a Premier League official for some time, because we've already had him twice this season. I mean, that is ridiculous, really. And we had him a couple times at the end of last season too. When you look at those numbers, when they're written down like that, it kind of actually gives you some perspective. Yes, 4 yellows on Sunday. Some of those were self-inflicted of Chelsea, especially in the melee, kicking the ball away. I think, as I already spoke, one of those yellows was for Cole Palmer, who probably should have known better. But when you have 8 yellow cards in a game where Taylor clearly lost control and was just card happy throughout the entirety of the game, that's not something you get on a weekly basis. So some context is given there. I do think that across the Premier League, it's one of these things where I still always think that each year you get the PGMOL goes really hard on a gimmick, and it's a new thing they're going to do each year. Some years it's about really focusing on something at set pieces, penalties, handballs, that whatever it is, something to do with VAR. And then very quickly during the course of the season, it turns. It only lasts for about 2 or 3 months, because either there's a massive backlash about it that means that they have to kind of slowly ebb away at what they were doing and kind of be more lenient, or completely overturn what they said already, which kind of shows the incompetency of the officiating in the Premier League, which remains a consistent and problematic issue. But, I do wonder if in a few months' time, this issue will be not that big of a talking point, because maybe the way they're kind of, enforcing the rules right now, of being really harsh, really pedantic at times, of throwing out yellows for time wasting, or things that actually most teams are doing. And if you're going to hand out yellows, you're going to be in an Anthony Taylor situation where you're handing out ridiculous number of yellows, breaking records every week. So that is something that needs to be clarified. So maybe it's not so much a Chelsea issue, it's an Anthony Taylor issue, which it would not be the first time. So those are my thoughts today. Let me know yours in the comments below, and I will see you again very soon. All the best.